Ever been sized up the second you walked into a room? Like your shoes, your age, or just the way you carry yourself made someone decide you weren't worth their time? That's exactly what happened to me at the dealership that day. The salesman took one look and figured I was just another kid kicking tires. But here's what he didn't know. I wasn't browsing. I wasn't dreaming. And I definitely wasn't someone he should have ignored. By the time this was over, he'd regret every condescending smirk, because underestimating people, that's a mistake you only make once. If you've ever been dismissed, looked down on, or straight up disrespected, this story's for you. Hit that like button if you know the feeling. Subscribe if you love seeing the underdog come out on top. Because trust me, by the end of this, you'll be grinning ear to ear. So let's dive into one of the most satisfying payback stories you'll hear all week. It started like any other Saturday. I walked into the showroom in jeans and a hoodie, not exactly the luxury buyer uniform. The salesman barely glanced up from his phone. Just another time waster, right? Except I wasn't there to window shop. I was there to buy. And the moment he realized who he'd been brushing off, priceless. But let me back up, because the best part isn't just what I bought. It's how I made sure he'd never judge another customer again. Picture this, Britain in the 1980s, a time when ambition wore shoulder pads and success smelled like hairspray. The economy was booming. Technology was changing everything. And in the heart of London's financial district, fortunes were being made overnight. Our story begins with a 20-year-old who just landed his first major contract in the city. Fresh-faced but sharp as a tack. He went from coding in his bedroom to running his own tech company practically overnight. That shiny new business card in his wallet didn't just say his name, it said director. Now, in 1980s Britain, if you'd made it big, you didn't just buy a car, you got a company car. It was about more than transportation. It was a statement, a badge of honor. The right car could open doors, command respect, and announce your arrival in the business world. Our young director had his eye on Ford's top performance model. Not the most luxurious car on the market, but for a self-made 20-year-old, it represented everything he'd worked for. He'd save, he'd plan, and most importantly, he'd called ahead to make an appointment. But here's the thing about success. Some people can't see it unless it comes wrapped in the right package. And that's exactly what our car salesman was about to learn in the most embarrassing way possible. The dealership doors swung open with a confident push. Our protagonist walked in with the quiet assurance of someone who knew exactly what he wanted. Polished shoes, a well-cut suit, and that unmistakable energy of someone on their way up in the world. He approached the sales desk where a slick-haired salesman in his 40s was flipping through paperwork. Before our guy could even introduce himself, he got the look. You know the one. That quick up and down glance that measures your worth before you said a word. "I'm here for the test drive," our protagonist said. "The XR3i. I called about it yesterday." The salesman didn't even look up from his papers. "Yeah, we don't have that car available right now." No apology, no effort to check. Just that dismissive tone that said louder than words, "You're not serious. You're not important. You're wasting my time." And then came the smirk. That little sideways curl of the lip that transformed simple rudeness into outright disrespect. It screamed, "You? Test drive this car? Don't make me laugh." Ever had that moment? That white-hot instant when someone's disrespect cuts through you like a knife? Our protagonist felt it coursing through his veins. But where most people might snap or storm out, he did something far more dangerous. He got calm, deadly calm. Slowly, deliberately, he reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a crisp white business card. He slid it across the polished counter with just 2 fingers, letting it come to rest perfectly centered in front of the salesman. "Maybe call me when you do have one," he said, his voice cool as ice. The salesman's eyes dropped the card. Director, the company name, the London address. In that moment, you could practically see the gears turning in his head as he realized his mistake. Suddenly, miraculously, the unavailable car became available. "Oh, actually, sir, I think we might be able to arrange something after all." But it was too late. Our protagonist was already turning away, leaving the stammering salesman holding both the business card and his dignity in tatters. Walking out of that dealership, our young director didn't feel anger anymore. He felt something far more powerful: clarity, because in that moment, he'd learned two valuable lessons about the world. First, people will judge you in an instant based on nothing but appearances. Second, and far more importantly, you get to decide whether to prove them wrong or make them regret it. He didn't end up buying from that dealership, but the story doesn't end there, because word travels fast in business circles, especially when someone makes a fool of themselves by underestimating a rising star. 2 weeks later, our protagonist walked into a different dealership, this time in a better part of town. And guess who happened to be there, trying to schmooze with the real buyers? The same salesman who dismissed him before. Their eyes met across the showroom floor. The salesman's face went pale as he watched our now confirmed director being personally escorted to the premium models by the dealership's owner. That look of dawning horror, that was worth every penny of the car he eventually bought elsewhere. Because revenge doesn't always mean confrontation. Sometimes it's just living well and letting your success speak for itself. The salesman eventually lost his job. Our protagonist, he went on to build an empire. But that's a story for another time. 2 weeks after that humiliating encounter, our young director pulled out a competing dealership in the exact car he'd been denied, a gleaming new Ford XR3i. Its polished curves catching the sunlight like a predator ready to pounce. Now here's where the story gets delicious. Ford had a policy back then: your first service at 600 miles? Completely free at any authorized dealership. And our protagonist knew exactly which service bay he'd be rolling into. Picture the scene. The same salesman who dismissed him is leaning against the counter, chatting up what he thinks is a more promising customer. Then the showroom doors open, and in walks our hero, except now he's not some kid in a hoodie. He's the proud owner of the very car the salesman had claimed wasn't available. "Good afternoon," he announces loud enough for the whole showroom to hear. "Here for my 600-mile service on the XR3i. He makes deliberate eye contact while casually twirling those shiny new keys around his finger. The metallic jingle might as well have been a dinner bell for karma. The salesman's face goes through 3 distinct phases. First confusion, then recognition, and finally that beautiful moment of dawning horror as he realizes this is the kid he brushed off, the one who wasn't serious enough for a test drive, the one now standing there with a brand new car that should have been his commission. But wait, it gets better. Our protagonist didn't just show up once. Oh no, he made sure to schedule every single service visit at that exact dealership. Oil changes? There. Tire rotation? You bet. Even when he didn't strictly need service, he'd find an excuse to bring it in, always making sure to arrive right when the salesman was busiest. Each visit was a masterclass in subtle revenge. "The clutch feels a bit sticky," he'd say loudly in the showroom. "Probably should have test driven it properly before buying, right?" The way he casually mentioned to other customers how much he loved the car. "Got such a great deal at the other dealership too." The final humiliation came 6 months later, when our guy strolled in for his routine maintenance only to find his original salesman wasn't there anymore. "Oh, didn't you hear?" the new salesman mentioned casually while checking him in. "He got let go last month." Apparently his sales numbers weren't cutting it. That first service visit became legendary in our protagonist's circle. His employees would beg him to tell the story at company parties. His friends would howl with laughter at the part about the salesman's face. But here's what makes this more than just a funny anecdote. Years later, after he'd sold his company for millions and moved on to bigger ventures, our now not so young director found himself mentoring startups. And you know what lesson he always emphasized? People will judge you in an instant. Let them, then let your success be your revenge. That car? He kept it long after he could afford far more luxurious models. Not out of sentimentality, but as a reminder of how far he'd come and how sweet it feels when the people who doubted you get to watch you succeed. When we look back at stories like this, it's easy to focus on schadenfreude, that guilty pleasure of seeing someone get their comeuppance. But the real lesson runs much deeper. This wasn't really about a car. It wasn't even about that salesman. It was about that universal human need to be seen, truly seen, for what we're capable of. We've all had moments where we've been underestimated, written off, or made to feel small. Maybe it was a teacher who said you'd never amount to anything, a boss who passed you over for promotion, a so-called friend who laughed at your dreams. Whatever your version of that car dealership moment was, you'll understand why this story resonates. Because at its core, this is about respect, about that undeniable moment when the world gets forced to see you differently, when you'll never becomes look at you now. And the sweetest part? Getting to walk away knowing you proved them wrong without ever needing to say a word. So tell me, when was your moment? That time someone doubted you, dismissed you, or looked right through you, only to realize too late they made a huge mistake? Share your stories in the comments, because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that everyone's got a car dealership story waiting to be told. If that story gave you that warm, tingly feeling of justice served, that little rush of satisfaction when the underdog comes out on top, do me a favor and smash that like button right now. Let me see those thumbs up lighting up the screen. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because trust me, this is just the beginning. We got an entire vault of stories just like this one. Tales of ordinary people getting extraordinary revenge, underdogs rising to the occasion, and arrogant folks getting exactly what they deserved. Every single week, we're dropping new content that'll have you cheering, laughing, and maybe even getting a few revenge ideas of your own. Here's what's coming up next. We got the story of a waitress who got the last laugh on the rudest customer imaginable. Then there's the intern who ended up owning the company that nearly fired him. And wait until you hear about the student who proved her doubters wrong in the most spectacular way possible. You won't want to miss any of these, so make sure that notification bell is turned on. But before you go, I want to leave you with this thought. Revenge doesn't always have to be dramatic or destructive. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well. It's waking up every day and being the best version of yourself. It's achieving your goals, building your dreams, and letting your success speak for itself. So here's your challenge of the week. Go out there and prove somebody wrong. Maybe it's that teacher who said you'd never amount to anything, that ex who thought you couldn't survive without them, that boss who never recognized your worth. Show them, through your actions, your achievements, your unshakable determination, exactly what you're made of. And when you do, come back here and tell us about it in the comments. I read every single one, and nothing makes my day more than hearing your own stories of triumph and justice. Remember, the best revenge isn't about bitterness or anger. It's about rising above. It's about success. It's about looking in the mirror every morning and knowing you're becoming the person you were always meant to be. Now get out there and make today count. And don't forget, we'll be waiting right here with another incredible story next week. Until then, keep that fire burning, keep proving people wrong, and most importantly, keep coming back for more.